Hey everyone, this is Neo once again from the Overclocker magazine. I'm bringing you another GSKILL DDR5 kit DRAM review, and we've done two of these just for DDR5. The first set that I got from GSKILL was a C30 6000 kit. Remember that one? And I was really happy with that. At the time, I was like, okay, you could do DDR5 7000, and it was cool and all of that stuff. And then I moved on to the 6800 kit. And with that, I think I was able to do 7600. But what I have for you today is something that is the ultimate in terms of the GSKILL kits that I've reviewed. And that's a 48GB kit. I mean, it looks identical to the other kits I've reviewed. It's all Trident Z5 RGB. And in fact, a lot of this B-roll that you're actually seeing is from the previous kit. I won't tell you which kit, but it actually makes no difference. The important thing here, and why you're here listening to me talk about this, is because of what the ICs can do. So about 2 months ago, I had heard that read that the 24GB kits, or rather the sticks, and obviously 48GB kits, actually OC'd so much better, or seems to OC a lot easier than the 16GB A-die ICs, right? So everybody seemed to be getting over 8,000 just ridiculously easy. Just set it and go. And even sometimes on 4 DIMM boards, right? Okay, it's far and few in between, but a lot of people were able to get some really good results from them. So naturally, GSKILL was like, hey, check this out. And I did check it out, and damn, I'm telling you, this is by far the fastest kit I have ever reviewed for DDR5, and I mean by far. So of course the memory is standard DDR5 6400 1.35 volts. This one is actually the CL32 kit. There is another very similar kit which Woodware sells locally, and that's the CL36 kit. The difference between these two, I think, is that maybe the CL32 kit that I have here is better binned than the CL36 kit, but I think the ICs are the same. So whatever I'm able to do with this kit, you should be able to do with the CL36 kit, perhaps at a slightly higher voltage, or maybe you might have to relax some of the timings. Look, I don't know. I'd have to test the kit to actually know what the implications of it being C36 instead of C32 actually mean in real life. But anyway, so I had that situation where I have an Apex and I have this 48GB kit, and I was like, let me see if I can do what everybody else has been talking about or writing about that they're able to do so easily on this kit. And lo and behold, it was actually true. You know, I was doing 6400 CL32. I was like, that's fine, let's just do 7400. Boom, 7400 at exactly the same timings that other GSKILL kits rated out the factory at 7400 can do. Same voltage, right? Same 1.35 volts. I didn't have to do anything. And then of course I was like, let's do come on, you have to get into the 8,000 club. Well, at least that used to be a thing, but now it's not. But if you can get to 8,000, that's really good. Lo and behold, I was able to get to 8,000. I think it was I did see 40, 48, 48, and I think the limit, I'm not sure if this is the limit of my tuning or perhaps the limit of the CPU or the BIOS I'm using, whatever it is, but the maximum frequency that I got to, or rather speed, is DDR5 8200. And even that 8200, I do suspect there's a little bit more left in this memory, and the reason I say that is because if I did something like 8400, for instance, I would fail the Karu RAM test or TM5 like well into the test. For Karu, it would be like 2500%. So meaning that it's just some slight adjustments that would get me to past 8400. And when I say DDR5 8400, I'm actually talking 1.4 volts. I know that you can probably go high and probably run daily 1.5 volts because there were some kits that were sold at 1.5 volts, but I'm not about that life. And so I will not be running DDR5 at probably more than 1.45 volts. And fortunately for this kit, adding more voltage plus 1.5 actually didn't help much. But I just thought I would come to you and talk to you about this DRAM and show you the benchmark so we can see exactly how it performs. And right, here we'll start with either 64 memory bandwidth. The important results are the 8000 results and below. The 8200 we will most likely ignore because it uses more voltage than all the other settings and isn't as doable on as many motherboards as 8000 and below is. So going from 6400 to 8000 adds anywhere between 16 to 32GB of bandwidth, a massive boost to overall system bandwidth. Any other time 7200 would be impressive, but the 8000 setting just simply runs away with it with ease. It's great that you can add so much more performance with no adjustment to the supplied voltage.
AIDA64 latency results are pretty much what you'd expect. With further tuning, the 7200 and 8000 setting could see some substantial reduction, but still the performance scales as expected. 7-zip benchmark is next, and this one is sensitive in that it needs to be run first after a reboot to get the best result, or you could end up with the 6400 XMP settings beating the 8200 results. That said, DDR5 8000 is winning here, of course. Geekbench is always interesting, as we can see that the memory score improves significantly by switching to DDR5 7200. All the other gains from then on are way smaller. Again, the memory scores can be much higher with secondary and tertiary timings tuned, so look at these results as worst case scenario, if you will. SuperPi 32M behaves as expected as well, with DDR5 8000 winning despite the significantly worse timings when compared to DDR5 7200. To me, this just shows that 7200 will probably have all the frequency you need. The timings are what really matter. Keep in mind as well that 1.35 isn't needed for DDR5 7200. 1.25 will deliver the very same timings and frequency. In 3DMark TimeSpy Extreme CPU test, the default 6400 XMP settings are performing better than expected, and as a result, the difference between the best and worst is less than 400 points. Not much in it at all. Handbrake encoding shows again that once you hit 7200, you're pretty much tapped out on the usable performance of the memory in real-world applications, or at least where frequency is concerned. There's nothing in it between 7200 and 8200, so once again, for practical reasons, I'd keep the memory at 7200 using 1.25 volts. Y-Cruncher, which is always taxing on the memory, shows yet again how 7200 is where you start getting diminishing returns. The difference between XMP 6400 setting and 7200 is 6 seconds in the 2.5B test, but adding another 500 MHz to the memory frequency and appropriate timing reduces the compute time by less than 2 seconds. V-Ray repeats what we've seen in other benchmarks as well, but this time the 7200 result actually beats DDR5 8000. I ran this multiple times and it was consistent. The timings advantage at CL34 7200 edges out CL40 8000. We finally get to the only game test that I ran, which is super light on the GPU, and the reason that is because I'm using a very sad GeForce RTX 4060 Ti 8GB. Here, there's no difference between any of the DRAM settings or frequencies, to be honest. The lows are improved, but average frame rate doesn't change much at all. 251 versus 260 or more isn't anything one can appreciate. I'll be changing GPU soon to something more powerful, one where hopefully we can see more meaningful differences between DRAM speeds in games.
In terms of just being the outright fastest kit that I've ever reviewed, definitely, by far, this is not even close, because I mean, yeah, 8200 is impressive, and in fact, on my test rig right now, for all the other reviews, I will be running DDR5 8200. But for the people who cannot get to 8000 plus, or who are using motherboards that are only rated for 7200 and so forth, there's an actually very interesting thing about this memory. So 1.35 volts CL32 3939 109, I think, is the standard setting for this memory at 1.35 volts, right? I could do 7000 CL30 40 52, but at only 1.25 volts. So meaning I could get better performance. Yes, I know the cache latency has gone up, but trust me, the performance is way better at 7000. So I could get relatively good timings at a lower voltage by 100 millivolts and increase the frequency as well. So obviously this plays well for the people who have the older, maybe a Z690 motherboard that wasn't really okay with doing over 7000. If you still buy this memory, you can get in on the action, you know. And I'm not even saying that CL34 is probably the best you can do. I think if you are willing to still run 1.35 volts, then you could probably do CL32 still at 7000 and so forth. So I think that's really good for this memory. I just decided that I'm going to do 1.25 volts, and the reason being the memory remains cool, and I know I can maintain that speed even if I have a case where the airflow around the DIMMs rather isn't so good. So for me, that actually represents something that's more real than the 8200 or even the 8000. Yes, those are nice frequencies to get to, and the performance is stellar, at least in the synthetic test. But I'm telling you, if you can dial in the tighter timings, even if you have to sacrifice frequency for that, the memory is just top notch. And if you are able to get it for a reasonable price, I don't think there's a faster memory kit that you can buy in SA right now. Honestly, there just simply wouldn't be, because I mean, I've tried DDR5 kits from A-Data, I've tried from Crucial, tried from Kingston, but the GSKILL ones, time and time again, they just bringing that fire. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and remember to share, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. So take care and peace.